Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Have you ever managed anyone? Have you ever mismanaged anyone? You know, we're all in the business of managing people. And whether we have the title of manager or we don't, we all manage people. And we manage them up, down, sideways, and we also manage ourselves. Believe it or not, the same qualities of managing other people apply to managing ourselves. Well, I am very, very happy to introduce to you Shawn Novatt, who is the station manager for WHPC. And I would like you to know why I invited Shawn, because in his few short years of being station manager of WHPC, he has totally turned the station around to make it an multi-award winning radio station. And I have been part of this. I have observed Shawn all these years, and from my background as a management trainer, just marveled at a lot of things that he did. So welcome, Shawn.
Well, thank you, Duffy, for having me.
Yes. So just relationships, any and every aspect of interpersonal relationships at home and at work. So first, Shawn, I want to say to you that actually the essence of management is a dual function, that we manage both the tasks and the people doing the tasks. And if we only manage tasks, we are called a taskmaster, or a lot worse, right? And if we only manage people as in what feels good for them and all of that, well, we might as well be a social director. And we don't really get anything done but people having fun. So the crux of management is combining the two. And that's quite difficult because task is more left brain and people management is more right brain. And very few people are whole brained. I call them Renaissance people. And I think you have a way of being able to manage both, which is, again, the genesis of your extraordinary success at WHPC.
Well, thank you, Duffy.
You're welcome.
To catapult off that thought is, you need to mix the tasks with the fun. And
yes.
Especially in this environment, this college radio environment that we have here at WHPC, it's still a job. It's still a full functioning radio station, and there's work that needs to get done. But at the same time, I'm very aware, having been in that position, I'm very aware of what being an 18, 19, 20-year-old college student is like. And sure, you need to get used to being in the real world, and that's what WHPC is supposed to train you to do. But at the same time, if we're not having fun, I'm not going to get people here to work for free.
That is it. Excellent. And you knew that from the get-go. And you remember what it's like being 18 or 19, Shawn?
Barely. But no, I did college radio. I went to Hofstra across the street from us here in Garden City. Yeah. Hofstra's over in Hempstead. And I worked at that radio station and worked my way up into student management roles there. That's how I got my start in radio. And then worked for 15 to 20 years in commercial radio before I came here. So I remember what it's like to be a student on the student side of college radio. And I tried to keep that at the forefront when I was planning how we were going to evolve the radio station.
Wow. I did not know that about you, Shawn. I didn't know that you were also exactly in that role. So you really have a bonus perspective, been there, done that. And So what I noticed, first of all, all the parties that you give, and letting the students be lax where they can. And at the same time, the thing I noticed most about you is your accountability, your sense of accountability. And let me just say that not only is it difficult to manage people, it is 10 times more difficult to manage volunteers.
Absolutely. The people who are at this radio station, including yourself, are donating your time as well as your knowledge, but more importantly, your time, because, the old saying, time is money, and you're donating that, especially as a community volunteer. But from the student standpoint, yes, 99% of them are donating time. They're not getting credit to work here. A handful, 1 or 2 students a semester may do an internship and get credit to be here. But the vast majority are volunteering their time and looking to get experience, looking to get something to put on their resume, a reference, a recommendation, the experience on the resume. They're looking to also have a good time as an extracurricular activity. Not everybody that works at the radio station is majoring in communications. Some people major in, you can major in science or math or, really doesn't matter what you're majoring in. Some people just love music and want to do a music show for an hour and relieve stress. So there's all different types of personalities that walk through the door here, and figuring out how to still run the business of the radio station while still letting each student get what they want out of the experience is what's very important to making this ship sail.
Experience. It is so invaluable. On-the-job training, that is where it's at. One of my clients is a college student who is wanting to be a MD, or at least starting out to be a physician's assistant. And she wanted a summer job working at a pharmacy, and instead of doing retail or waiting on tables. And when she got that job, we were both so thrilled. You can't even measure what it's like being on the inside, and really being so familiar with what's going on in the makings of a radio station. And just to tout, WHPC is a public radio, and I really value, and that's why I donate my time, because I so value public radio, and that there is there's not a bias. There may be a bias, but there's thoughtfulness, there's objectivity, that sort of thing.
And divvying off the pharmacist MD example you gave before, that client of yours could very easily get a job waiting tables. But 5 years from now, when they're going to apply for that first job being a doctor, seeing working at a pharmacy on your resume as opposed to Joe's Pizza Shack, it adds so much more value. And if there's 2 people going for the job who have similar qualifications, but one has the experience in a medical related job and one doesn't, who do you think is going to get the job?
Of course. So the experience is not only experiential and invaluable, it's also documented. It's documented on the resume, and it gives a tremendous advantage. So I have to share with you, Shawn, that when you first came on board and you started to mandate meetings, I did not like that.
I don't think many people who've been here as long as you have did. I came in 2016, about 5 years ago now from when we're recording this show. And, my predecessor, I don't know if you guys ever had parties or got together, or even, whether it was informal or formal.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I did very early on is, and I felt it was very important, and this goes for any industry, whether you're in radio or really any industry, is I feel it's important once or twice a year. In our case, we try to do it twice, and I'm praying that once COVID passes, we can get back to doing it. Sorry to disappoint you, Duffy. But I'm hoping, I think it's very important to get everybody on the same page. And also, and that's the formality of it. So we have a meeting and we go over some updated rules and what's changed and the exciting things that have happened at the radio station. and how to get everybody working as one big happy team or one big happy family, as we've had some jokes over the years. But also informally, we have food at the event. We ask people to come down early and socialize with everybody. We are one big happy family, and there's a lot of students who don't know the community volunteers who have been at this radio station as long as you have, for example. And we have some other people who've been here 25, 30 years at this point. The station's been around 50 years in 2022. It's got a great history. There's a lot to learn, and the majority of students are here barely 2 years, and they just need to make the most of that time. And I feel getting them in that room twice a year is so important, not just to evolve the radio station, but to evolve each of those students and to make an impression on those students and make it so that they remember their college years here at Nassau Community College. And then we still do the informal events like the holiday party, which, different events like that, and an end of summer party and things like that we're hoping to add as time goes on, and which of course won't be mandatory to attend, but I hope people would want to attend that. And really any industry, anytime you can get your entire staff together, whether it's virtually over Zoom or hopefully in person, it's a team building exercise. And I feel it's very important to make any business run.
Well, that's it, the nature of team building. So one of the things that I liked about the mandated meetings was that you fed us.
And that's important. You got to keep the DJs full.
Yes. Give them food, they will come. And I love how you did that, which was you took no excuses. If you gave people literally 6 months in advance, so twice a year, and this is the time for next time, which is 6 months from now.
Yes.
And
clear your calendar.
Right, clear your calendar. Make it happen. And I was so impressed when I first walked in to see a huge auditorium full of students who worked at the station. I only understood like there were a few people initially before you came on board. And we're looking at what was almost 100 people. I mean, is that possible, Shawn?
At our peak prior to the pandemic, we probably had combined students and community volunteers, probably about 125 people volunteering at this radio station.
125, and you had to coordinate all of that, and you had to coordinate with kids.
Yeah, still do. Yeah. I mean, we had to make some changes and evolve just as everyone did over the course of the pandemic. We are definitely lower in terms of our population than we were prior, hoping that once things return to normal, we can get those numbers back up to where they were, because the larger we are, the more we can grow, the more we can do, and the better we can be.
So let's break this down for people who love just relationships,
and who doesn't.
Oh, thank you. Because relationships to me are the essence of quality life. And now when we're looking at all of these studies on resiliency, which I started teaching at Nassau Community after 9/11, I wrote a course for resiliency training, and it was very well received. And I learned so much myself about resiliency. And one of them, of course, is social support and the most social contact you can have. And as you called it, being part of a family, being part of a community, being part of a team. And I just wanted to say, because most people don't know, that WHPC, the H and the P stands for Hempstead Plains. So let's let people know that. Hempstead Plains, that's where we are, living on a plane that is no longer looks like a plane. So you give people that, and there's more emphasis on that for volunteers. Yet I think that managers who work for a living and they have the title of manager need to always understand the quality of human connection and the quality of being a team player, and also the quality of people who manage them. You know, I will say, and this is what I say when I teach managers how to build positive, successful teams, that once you have that title, you are an official authority figure. And a lot of people have unfinished business, a lot of unfinished business around authority figures in their lives. And they project all of that onto you, and they can resent you for being that authority figure. Does that resonate at all with you, Shawn?
Yes, I would definitely say yes. It also comes down to, especially in the college realm that we're doing now, is teaching students, teaching people how to answer to the authority, how to answer to the manager, how to work with a superior. We've definitely have different ways of doing that because we have the 18 to 21-year-old college students, and then we have the volunteers who are 25, 26 years old. Duffy, is that what you just turned this year? 26, I think was your birthday.
Yes, I'm a quarter of a century old. Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot to get you a gift. But yes. but we have people of all different ages, backgrounds. Figuring out how to manage everybody is definitely a skill that's learned. I don't think it's something that you're just born with. And you need to teach people, especially at the young college age, the freshmen and the sophomores that we have, the majority of here of Nassau, how to respect the authority and be able to have what's called corporate acceptable disagreement, and being able to challenge your boss and ask questions without being rude or argumentative. These are the types of things that we learn over time, and some people are better at it than others. But I would say that resonates with me, sure.
Wow, Shawn, I never heard that term, corporate acceptable disagreement.
Yes.
I love that. Obviously, you've done reading on management. Shawn Novatt.
Absolutely. That and the environment of mutual respect. Those are the two things that I definitely learned from Hofstra, my Hofstra days, and I've brought here as well. And I brought actually wherever I went. Your boss, wherever you are, we'll use Joe's Pizza Shack as the example. If your boss tells you need to make the pizza with, make sure you use this much sauce on the pizza, and you think that it would taste better with a little less sauce, it's okay to question that, but there's a right way and a wrong way to question how much sauce should be used on the pizza. And if you question it one time and the boss says, nope, definitely use X number of sauce, you can't really go back a second time and question the boss. That you've had your chance, you had your disagreement, you presented it in a corporately acceptable manner, but it didn't necessarily go your way. And unfortunately, that's the way it works in business, is what the boss says goes. And there are the majority of people, I would say, get that. And there's always a handful of people that are like, no, I'm the right one and you're the wrong one, Mr. Boss. And you just need to learn that very early on. And that's what the training ground here at Nassau Community College and the radio station here gives the students, is how do you respond, offer your opinion, because opinions are definitely valid. The good bosses will listen to the opinions and take some of them, because sometimes the boss isn't always the right one. And I've definitely been presented with, doing it this way it will be a little bit better than doing it my way. So yeah, let's try that. But there's definitely a boundary to how far you can take that disagreement.
Wow, that is great, because when I teach management skills, I do tell my students that we manage up as well as down. When we use the word management, we think of the traditional managing down, but the truth is we manage up as well. And I just informally call that boss management. And so the idea is to make a suggestion and make it with respect. And as you're saying, make it just once.
Right. If you don't get the answer you want the first time, it's not going to change a second time, and it's only going to anger it's going to strain the relationship and anger the boss.
It's a joke about that, but what I say to my couples that I give therapy to as a marital therapist. Do you really think that the 908th time you say something that your spouse is going to say, you're right. I see the light. I see how brilliant you are. Of course, darling.
I get that with my 9-year-olds all the time. They'll be like, can I have another snack? No, you can't have another snack. Can I please have another snack? No, the answer's not going to change just because you asked me again 3 seconds later.
Well, that's so true. And there is a book actually management book called Peanut Butter and Jelly Management, and comparing managing children to managing adults.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's the same. The way I open the show, looking at the dual function of managers, which is to manage the task and the people doing the task. So you don't just say brush your teeth. Yes, you say that, but you also say, oh, come on, I'll do it with you. This is when we do it. And I bought you that special toothpaste that you liked. And look at this pretty Disney toothbrush. And you always include the human connection. And even if it is with an adult, just saying please and thank you.
Sometimes,
right?
If you leave that out, you're not going to get the respect you want. You may get the answer, but you may not get the respect.
Yeah. So the idea of people have some sensibility that, okay, if I'm working with a volunteer, someone who's working for me for free, I can say please and thank you. But people also forget that when other people are earning money, they still would like that kind of respect instead of dictating and demanding.
Or you're going to lose the good employees to other companies. They're going to feel disrespected or unrespected or whatever respected word you want to use, and they're going to look for employment elsewhere. And I've been places where I've had great bosses, and I've been places where I have bosses that I've wished death upon.
Yes.
And to this day, there's people in previous radio jobs that I wish would get painful laryngitis, not just laryngitis so they couldn't work. I want it to hurt every time they talk. But
that's right. Yes, and that's exactly.
And I learned from the good ones and the bad ones to determine what kind of boss I want to be when I get to that position. And I was granted that position here 5 years ago, and I'm conscious of the good boss, bad boss mentality. And there are times where I need to be a little stern or strict and say, yes, this is the way we have to do it. But I don't want to be the kind of boss that's like, nope, it's my way or the highway. So, I listen, we adjust. Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. You can't be a no boss all the time.
Yes. And we need to balance our yeses and our nos, and we also need to balance when we tell and when we ask. And there is a continuum. And I also have to vouch for negative role models. I was a radio show guest for years before I became a host. Mm-hmm. And I could not get over how many radio hosts would ask me a question. They'd have something on a list. They'd ask me a question, and I would be in the studio, and then they would look away, and they would just wait until I stopped, and then they just, oh, okay, and look at the next question on the list. Mm-hmm. And I vowed I would never treat anyone that way, because if you don't give me attention, I peter out. Mm-hmm. I peter out.
It reminds me of like James Lipton on Inside the Actor Studio with his stack of blue cards, and he would just he would reach for the next question. He would just reach for the next question, and it really didn't matter what the guest said. I'm just moving on to question 2.
Yes,
and that's one of the that's one of the skills we teach you. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, and with James Lipton, what saved him, I think, is that he had a lot of admiration and respect for the actors, and he gave them tremendous presence. He was extraordinarily present. But you're right, he was definitely more scripted, and I am not at all. And and my guests, and I have to compliment the people. I have had wonderful people on the show, very famous people like James Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, who complimented me, who had done hundreds of radio shows. And he said, Duffy, you are probably the best radio show host I have ever encountered. And people who are used to radio interviews and bored out of their mind with it always find that it's interesting to talk to me, because I learn to track. I track very carefully, and then I ask a follow-up question. And I also put in my 2 cents a lot. So that's that's very important. And I know we have to close in a moment, but I wanted to just make mention that I offered a seminar to the WHPC students who volunteered. It was called the DISC model, DISC, with someone being dominant. The I is influencing, the S is steady, and the C is conscientious. And you came out. Do you remember?
I do.
Yes. What do you remember?
You compared me to an animal. I forget which animal it was now.
An eagle.
Eagle, that was it.
Okay, so you were dominant and conscientious. So the eagle is the dominant and the conscientious is the owl. And so what that means is that the people who are both D and C, dominant and conscientious, are extremely task-oriented and need to be much more conscious of upping their people skills. And as I had said, if you're on the other side, then you have to make sure you're more task-oriented because it's always a matter of balance. But you have that, I think, love of people, enjoyment. I think you naturally like to enjoy and have fun. I see on Facebook your pictures with your wife and your children. What a good dad you are. You have that ability for both. And again, you apply the accountability which you made happen to volunteers with, hey, this is what I need and why I need it. And that is so important too.
The why.
There are no arbitrary rules.
Right. The why is very important. And whenever I changed a rule or introduced an idea, I always explained why we are making this change. And that's also very important. It's not we're going to use this much sauce and that's it. It's we're going to use this much sauce because too much sauce spoils the pizza. Right.
And the word because is the most influential word. And I teach my students that as well. We are doing this or not doing this because. Mm-hmm. And that's how we influence people. So you always include that because, Shawn. So we have only a minute left. And how would you like to close the show? What would you like people to know about the essence of managing people?
It's just remember you're managing human beings. You're not the dictator. You're not, you don't want to come off as Hitler. You want to come off as a nice guy who's on the same team with the same end goal of making things better, making things the way you want them to be, and to treat people with the respect that you want them to treat you with, I think is very important. And I'll also leave you with the point that our next meeting will be in a couple of months, Duffy. I expect to see you there.
I will be there. You're making me, Shawn. And I have to tell you, I have not been used to being made to do anything for a very long time. As a professional who calls my own shots, that was a little bit of a culture shock for me initially. But I said, no, I love WHPC and I love my show, Just Relationships. I wrote it with a broad brush so I could, and you give me complete artistic license and freedom, creative license.
And that's important for all of my hosts. Absolutely.
You always support me in whatever choice and topics I want. And I just love it. So thank you so much, Shawn Novatt, award-winning radio station manager for WHPC. And it's been such a pleasure to work with you and to see that, the proof is in the results. The proof is in the results.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy, for having me.
This is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.